I'd like to call this meeting in order. Would you please stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming out tonight to our City of Shelton Commission meeting. The first item on our agenda is to go over our weekly commission events that we're going to be taking part in, and I'll turn this over to Commissioner Moore.
Okay, I have a really, really busy week this week. Tomorrow I have a meeting with Ryan in the morning. I have a League of Women Voters meeting. I have a tour of Sierra Pacific Industries, their new plant, and it's awfully cool to see the cranes down on our waterfront. I'm excited about that. I have a Mason Transit Authority board meeting tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, the opioid forum at the high school from 4 until 7. And then on Thursday, I will be meeting with the curator of the Washington State History Museum and talking about a potential grant opportunity that we have for the Roundhouse. So that is my week this week.
Commissioner Moore?
You want to go again?
Sorry, they're both ladies. Yeah, well, I got confused because we switched places in the other room. So you're Commissioner McDowell.
Yes, I am. Tomorrow morning I do some work at Choice. I'm tutoring in a reading class for a couple hours, so I start that up again tomorrow. I'm excited about that. I have my CareNet board meeting at 3:30 tomorrow. Wednesday, Economic Development Council of Mason County Luncheon and Learn out at Theller Center in Belfair. And public forum on opioid, I can never say that.
Opiates?
Yeah, use in Mason County, a forum from 4 to 7, so I'll be attending that tomorrow, or Wednesday. And that's my week.
And tomorrow, I will also be attending a Sahara Pacific tour of the new mill facilities. Wednesday, I will be attending a criminal justice board meeting. I'm on the board for the criminal justice team there, and I'll have that. In the morning, in the afternoon, then I plan to attend also the opiate forum. I think that's up at the high school. Mm-hmm. On Thursday, a staff briefing, and I'll touch a little bit about what I did last week. Last week, I attended a mayor's exchange where we get together 2 or 3 times a year, and it was over in Renton. And just to let you all know that the issue of homelessness and mental problems is the #1 issue facing all of the cities, big or small, in the state. That it's an issue that is seeming to actually grow. And so we all get there, we exchange ideas. I hear from other cities what they might be doing, and I come back and I had a great conversation with our city administrator over some possible ideas that we might want to look into for our city. It's something that we have to address, and that it's just obviously, and you can throw drugs kind of into that too, but it used to be years ago that you go and you talk about all the wonderful kinds of projects and things like that, but it seems that we have been hit the last few years quite heavily with poverty, homelessness, drugs, and mental illness. And so it's good to have an organization. Association of Washington Cities is what the city of Shelton is part of, and they coordinate all of the mayors and commissioners together, and we get to go through different forums and exchange ideas and look at what might be working in some city that we might be able to bring to our city. So it was an eventful time on that day last week, and so we'll stay tuned for a follow-up on that. Next is a general public comment period. If we have anybody like to speak about something, all we need to do is have you come and sign in, and we'll read that name, and you can have an opportunity. Do we have anybody, Ryan? Okay.
I didn't know you were supposed to sign in.
Just come and sign in, young man. And just state your name for the record, please.
Josh Johnson.
Okay? You ready?
Let's do it right
You're
now.
on.
Well, it's funny you open with the homeless problem, because that's why I'm here. I own the Shelton Athletic Club at the bottom of Turner,
Okay.
and I was coming here today to let you guys know, if you didn't know, about how that affects local businesses downtown. I'm just going to give you 3 real quick things that have happened over the course of the last year. One is we found a transient man that had snuck into the club and stayed overnight. And when we found him in the morning, he was doing heroin on the bathroom floor. Another one was when they go through the parking lot, they look through the cars and check to see if there's any windows down or open doors. One of them actually went into a car, and he was so tweaked out he didn't realize there was a 78-year-old woman in the driver's seat reading a book. When he realized she was there, he demanded her purse. She said no, and they struggled. This was right outside the door. And if a member wouldn't have come out and scared him off, I don't know what would have happened. But nobody was hurt, thankfully, but they constantly go through the parking lot doing this. And they will come into the club under the guise of buying a membership, and then they always want to go to use the bathroom at some point. And they use this opportunity to go through lockers, gym bags, anything they can find that's left open. And it's only been in the last year that I've really noticed this problem. I've lived here my whole life, but over the last year it's become really bad. And I think that it's because of the close proximity to the homeless camp they have right up the hill from me. And I've called the police, and they say they can't do anything about it because it's on private property. I just didn't know if you guys were aware all this stuff was going on, and if so, if there's anything we can do about it. And I'd hate for Shelton to become the next downtown Olympia or Seattle. So that's all I was coming today for.
I greatly appreciate your comments and your concerns, and it is something that we talk about all the time. And we are working with that issue, and we will be bringing some things forward probably within weeks that hopefully will help in this area.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out.
Thanks, Josh.
Anybody else want to speak? They'd have to sign in, and then they can speak. Just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Richard Wright. I come before you this evening with a myriad of things, but I'll only mention a couple.
Okay.
I live on Cascade Avenue, 619. There's a reservoir up there that used to hold water and now holds a combination of things that are creating a sensory nuisance. I've mentioned it with the city, and I'm glad that they're taking reference and moving toward doing something about it. Secondarily, I'm here because I live on Cascade Avenue, and in the mornings, the traffic flow to get to school at the grade school is not heavy, but fast, because of the parents that are late getting their children to school. And I've asked for police presence in the past, haven't noticed it, but I do notice that on one of the streets to the south, the school zone sign is considerably farther away from the school grounds than the school zone sign on Cascade. And I would request that the school zone side or sign on Cascade be brought very near the Highway 3 entry onto Cascade. Make that a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit in there. And ideally, the people will opt for slowing down. I'm talking speeds, and this is true, of at a minimum in the excess of 55 or 60 miles an hour. Just the other day, it's a black Volvo. It's nothing to see 45-mile-an-hour parents moving through there to get to the school on time. And I would appreciate any effects that are brought to be from the city. Thank you.
Your points have been duly noted. Thank you very much for coming down and talking to us. Anybody else?
Nobody else, I'm going to just point out that tonight's agenda has one general public comment, so if anybody does have a public comment, then
This would be the opportunity, yes. Okay, moving forward, are we ready for a reading of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes. Could we please have a reading of the consent agenda?
Consent agenda. Payroll warrants numbered 2592 through 2736 and 12528 through 12550 in the amount of $629,163.54. Vouchers numbered 12551 through 12646 in the amount of $434,806.08.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as read. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The agenda passes. We have no old business to discuss tonight, but we do have an item under new business, and at this time I'd like to turn the meeting over to our Public Works Director there, Mr. Greg Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, we have before you on tonight's agenda ordinance, first and second reading. Of course, in reviewing the ordinance today, I uncovered a small, it wasn't taken care of properly. There's a couple typos that need to get fixed. So we're not going to ask for first reading tonight. We want to have you have plenty of chance to look at this. But this is the ordinance that was correcting the errors that, well, they weren't really errors, but the lack of discussion, and I, for some reason, can't find it. Excuse me for that. We brought an ordinance before you in February, and it affected 28 duplexes out of the roughly about 124 that we have in town. It was an ordinance that we brought forward to do some housekeeping, but really affected 28 people pretty deeply with regard to their rates. And we did not foresee that, and I don't know why we didn't catch it, but we want to repeal that ordinance in February, and that's what this action before you is to do. Those accounts on the duplexes were those duplexes that had a single meter instead of 2 meters, one for each dwelling unit. And the ordinance that we had you look at and review in February was to change that so they would be dealt with similarly, but the impact was pretty strong. And so in further review of that, we want to repeal that and bring forward in a short time frame, couple weeks or whatever. I got to work with Ryan on this, but we want to bring something that's more palatable, something that can be transitioned in. Eventually, I think everybody would see that it'd be proper to have all the duplexes be the same as far as how the city treats those, but we do need to give these people some time to have the ability to change. So this particular ordinance will repeal that first ordinance in February that you moved forward on, and we'll give a credit on future charges for those dwelling units that were affected, and basically like I say, we will then bring back a ordinance with the transition in it so that you can review it and have comments on that. But tonight, the particular ordinance, all was correct in the language and the strikeout and all that, except for page 10. Somehow it got missed, and I apologize. But under the 15.28.30 schedule change on the single-family residential, the words including duplex were left in there, and that was the same as we changed in February, and that is wrong. If we were going to repeal the one that we brought forward in February, this language also needs to be repealed. I put a copy of the page on your counters there, on your desks, to reflect what it should read like, and you can see from the one that's in your packet, there's some red language that was included. And the reason this schedule change is it has to do with the consumption portion of the water. And when a single-family home is paid, or when you pay for your use of water, the first 600 feet is at one rate, consumption rate of 0.0222 cents per cubic foot. And then if you're a multifamily, it changes to a 0.258. After the 600 cubic feet is used on a single family, it changes to a different consumption rate. Anyway, that's a little bit confusing, but it is the way it is tiered for single family and duplexes, but of course we're repealing the duplex portion of it. So this wasn't changed. The page I left for you to review, and certainly if you have any questions, let's talk this week. I want you to be absolutely clear on what we're saying here, but the idea is to pull back the entire repeal so that we can move forward afresh on looking at how we want to administer this in the future. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Have any questions or comments?
Not at this point.
I have one. When this came before us earlier, and why we're going back and re-looking at it, I was not clear that this was on existing duplexes. Yeah, I just don't think it was quite explained. And I own a duplex inside the city limits of Shelton. So as last meeting and this meeting, to avoid any conflict of interest, I will withdraw my input and vote on this issue. So does everybody understand that I think it would be wrong for a commissioner that was directly financially could possibly benefit from any of our actions, that all of us should make sure that we at least, even if it isn't, a lawyer may say it doesn't, I want to choose to pull out of this conversation and not be a vote on that decision. So just because I think it's fair to the people to understand that the politicians that they vote into office are not doing things to benefit their own interest. So that's kind of my little public statement on that. I don't have any other, we just want to do things that are right for the people. So
I have a question. I've read through this, and I know that in the initial ordinance that the rate changed in 6 months. Is there an effective date in this now, or is that something that we will decide later?
This is an ordinance change, and I do believe it will require the same number of dates. And I believe it was 30 days that it required it to be posted in the local paper, and then there was, I believe, another 30 days until it was active. That's why it took from February until June that it actually started being administered. The proper number of days, and I'll find that answer for you, Tracy, between now and Monday of next week to answer that specifically. But there will be a duration of time before we can make this change happen. But whatever money these folks have incurred will be credited against their account so that we can move forward afresh on how we want to administer a reconciliation for moving forward.
Okay, so there'll be plenty of time for adequate notice and planning for those who are affected.
Yes. Just so you know, Tracy and commissioners, the city attorney has indicated we don't have to go through a formal public hearing process to make this administration correction. But whatever the commission wants us to do, we're more than happy to make whatever public notice you feel comfortable with in getting this word out. So whether that's writing letters to these 48 people, whatever works and makes the best effort for getting the word out.
Okay, I just had one more question. So, so I understand that we'll be looking at repealing this ordinance and adopting a new ordinance. Is that done at the same time as the fee schedule update, or is that affected by this?
No, this before you today is to repeal the ordinance that was done in February.
Uh-huh.
No connection at all to the fee schedule.
Okay.
That's an independent change or action that would be coming before you, and that's typically done by finance. This is specifically affects the storm, the sewer, and the water portions of the code.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. We'll see you in a week or two, or 3. At this point, we have an opportunity for any form of administration reports. I'll turn the meeting over to our city manager, Ryan Wheaton.
Interim CED Director Jason Doe is going to give us an update on permits.
All right, thank you. Ryan asked me to give a quick update. Hopefully I can do it quickly.
You have
No,
only
and
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
You
So.
hold me to that. We'll see if I can actually make that. That'd be a record, I think. So, as far as permits go, total permits, City of Shelton, year 2016, we have issued 267 this year. Now, I think the commission would be interested, what's the breakout?
Now, let's just take me back for just a second now. Permits, like for remodels or.
This is for
This is for
everything.
hot water tank, everything.
Absolutely.
Right, okay, that, yeah, because my head would have blown apart if it wasn't. So, okay, 267.
Total of 267. When you drill down to the more substantive permits, new residential, new commercial, for what we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years, it has been a fairly big year. We've had 9 new residential permits applied for. Several of them have been issued, not all. 6 new commercial buildings. And of course, a lot of those can be attributed to the reconstruction of the Sierra Pacific Mill site and then the fueling facility at Fred Meyer. Of course, that's another one. So essentially, that accounts for all of them at this point. You compare that to 2015, we had 2 and 2. So big increase in permits, on a year-to-year basis. We're seeing a lot more. I mean, this is something you wouldn't see in the numbers, but I do guarantee you we're seeing a lot more inquiries. Several inquiries at the counter, and those aren't quantified. We don't actually keep track of those. But the volume of phone calls, volume of realtor contacts, properties change in hand is rather significant. So I'm anticipating this is going to proceed into the new year. As a year-over-year comparison, between 2015 and 2016, surprisingly, we have pretty similar overall permit numbers. But like I said, the bulk of permits is this year. There's a lot more significant permitting, with namely the mill site, a lot of new residences. I'm not sure what else you would want to know about that. I don't know if you have any questions specifically.
Well, we all know that this year in April, we lowered the permit fees and development costs for people to do projects in the city, hoping that it would spur growth, which it appears it has. And I do know, outside of your numbers, on my talking to people, that there are some pretty significant projects, triplexes, multifamilies, and mini storage. A lot of stuff is coming down our line, and we need this kind of activity to pull back on the pretty large debt that we had, rightly building the big infrastructure, which we need to accommodate this kind of growth, but we really need help in paying for that. So I'm excited about this, and I just hope it's just the start of real growth to help us kind of pay for what we have to do.
I think you're correct.
I'm excited. Denny's getting new siding, the Simpson Credit Union's getting new siding and windows, and just drive around town and you see people adding onto their houses, or they're residing or doing whatever. A lot more action now than there has been in a long time.
Absolutely. It's
It's
a lot of
encouraging.
vacant structures getting reoccupied. And, those wouldn't show up as a new residential unit, but there are
Right.
quite a few that have been vacant for several years that are being bought, reoccupied,
Yeah.
rehabilitated. So these are all good things.
Yeah, good.
Jason, I was wondering about some other commercial permits that we've been expecting from, since last year. I was wondering if they have applied for the remodeling permits for our marijuana grow operations.
Site plan review for the one in the old Rainier Mill, the lower building, if you're familiar with that, off of Mill Street. That was approved 2 months ago, and they're determining how to best proceed. They have a couple challenges with fire flow, namely fire water flow, so they're trying to determine how to proceed with that. We just got the site plan review application for the upper one, for the old
Okay.
laboratory building, so that's moving forward. And for those that don't know, that is the land use permitting process. That's kind of the precursor to actual building permits. And
All right, thank you very much. And I will say that a person addressed me on the street and said that his relationship with the city, you in particular, that he was very, very happy with the professional attitude you had and that you were more than anxious to help them get their project underway. So there you go, Jason.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Brian, do you have anything else under administrative reports?
Not this time.
Okay. Any final touches?
Just one thing, we are going to bring forward an appointment for city clerk. So Vicki Look will be resuming that role when she is back in town. She starts next Monday, so we will bring that forward very soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next meeting will be Monday, September 26th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. This meeting is adjourned.
Do we have a Metropolitan Park meeting on the 26th?